The Fishin' Magazine television series is brought to you by Ranger Boats. Still building them one at a time so you can fish hard, run strong, and rest easy. Bass Pro Shops. Quantum and Motor Guide, the choice of serious fishermen. L&L Marine Care products. Take the chore out of marine maintenance. Fishing hotspots mapped so good, people ask for them by name. Pinpoint Network Fishing Systems, Daylight Corporation, the Fishing Hole in St. Louis, Missouri, and Central Pro-Am Association, the leader in Pro-Am bass tournaments.
Hi, this is Ernie Daughtery. Welcome to the Fishin' Magazine television series. It's the last stop on Central Pro-Am's 1999 qualifying Pro-Am bass tournament trail. This is the event that decides what pros and what amateurs advance to our year-end championship. Who's going to make the cut? We'll find out right after these messages.
Since it was impounded nearly 25 years ago, Missouri's sprawling Truman Lake has been a lake of surprises. Even anglers who fished the lake for years find the behavior of Truman Lake bass perplexing, and this year promises to be no exception. For most of the summer, the water level at Truman has been unusually low, but the lake has risen nearly a foot during the past week. In the days preceding the tournament, temperatures have hovered near 100 degrees. But on the afternoon before the tournament, a cold front moved in and dropped the temperature nearly 30 degrees. And what that will mean for the Pro-Am anglers is anybody's guess.
The fish I'm catching are real good quality fish. Just can't seem to get very many bites. They're just scattered. About as bad as I've ever known them to be scattered out. I think if a guy can get 5 or 6 bites a day, he'll probably do pretty good in the tournament. But I don't think it's going to take a lot of weight. I think 30, 32 pounds probably, maybe a little more than that, but I think that'll be about what it'll take to win the tournament. And I don't know whether I can even catch 20 pounds in 2 days the way they're acting or not.
Pro-Am veteran Danny Burns, who was the day one leader at Truman in 1998, has also found the Truman Lake bass even less predictable than normal.
From what I've seen today, I think it's going to be real hard to be consistent. I really do. Kind of like last year, you know, what happened. I think if you get 16 pounds a day, you're going to be looking pretty good. You'll see some guys probably come in with 18, 19, maybe a 20-pound bag like I did last year, but to back it up the next day, from what I'm seeing today, the fish aren't congregated that much, so it's going to be tough.
The Truman Pro-Am marks the final event for the Central Pro-Am tournament season and the quest for berths in the $125,000 Ranger Mercury Pro-Am Championship. It will also determine the winner of the Mercury Outboard Ulrich Marine Center Angler of the Year race in both divisions. After the first 5 tournaments, Troy Aiken sits atop the Pro Division standings with 596 points, giving him a commanding lead over Dave Barker, who's in second place with 527. Barker also has a sizable lead over Dave Crisenberry in third place, but it's close from there on, with Greg Ryan and Jackie Davis rounding out the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, it's tight all the way as Kelly Power holds on to a slim lead over Tim Sonato, Mark Weezy, Brian Snowden, and Bill Reed. In the amateur division, Mike Smith leads the way with 455 points, but he's got a struggle on his hands. Bob Jorgensen's not entered in this tournament, but Matt Carroll, Ron Foss, and Andy Gill are, and any one of them could overtake Smith if he falters. In the rest of the top 10, Ken Sullivan heads the list in 6th place with 397 points, with Shane Brown, Larry Wickersham, John Bond, and Mike Jones in hot pursuit. The morning of day one is unseasonably cool, but to the Pro-Am anglers, it's a welcome relief from the heat they normally face at Truman. Fred Barracks, who won the Truman Pro-Am in 1995 and 97, is always a perennial favorite here, and this morning, he's off to a good start. Barracks may have spent more days on Truman than any other angler alive, and he can recall from memory spots where he's caught hundreds of bass. But he's had the same experience in practice as the other competitors. This year, Truman bass are less dependable than normal, and when he misses this fish, he knows he's letting an opportunity for his 3rd Truman title slip right through his fingers. Steve Wright was in 29th place going into this tournament, and he needs to catch fish to stay in contention for a championship berth. So far this morning, he's doing his part. He's getting plenty of strikes, but the problem is they're all too small to keep. Finally, Wright comes through with a keeper, and if he can get 4 more, he's sure to be championship bound. Another angler in the hunt for a championship berth is Kevin Bowling. The only difference is Bowling wasn't in the top 30 going into this tournament, and he has to catch fish to move up in the standings. So far, he's on a roll, fishing a 9.5-inch plastic worm for suspended bass holding in the tops of standing timber. By mid-morning, he already has 4 keepers. If he can keep this up, he'll be going to the championship for the first time since he made it as an amateur in 1989. Gerald DuBois has locked up a championship berth, and he's locked in a tussle with Tim Taylor for the Pro Division Rookie of the Year title. If he can get a couple more like this one, he may just pull it off. When the Pro-Am anglers return to Bucksaw Point for the Day 1 weigh-in, Dustin Carpenter takes the early amateur division lead with 4.2 pounds, but he's soon overtaken by Dave Smrecker with 6.7 pounds. Lauren Moore, the only amateur division angler to come in with more than 3 keepers, eventually passes Smrecker with 8.55 pounds. James Park brings in this hefty 6.85-pound bass, but he has only 2 fish and can't overtake Moore. In the end, the day belongs to Frank Divis.
Here's your leader right now in the amateur division. Going to fire this one up also. 10.25 pounds.
For the Pro Division anglers, the day's been tough as well, although Ted Thomas managed to catch this 6-pounder. Andy Carrier also has a 6-pounder and 2 other bass to take the early lead with 11.35 pounds. But the ante is up big time once Jeff Herberger comes to the scales.
You evidently did your homework, buddy, or you're doing something different than everybody else.
Yeah, I got the right bites today.
Got the right bites today. How many do we have?
5.
We have the limit. That's the second limit to be weighed in right now. Oh, my goodness. Look at this fish. 7.50 pounds. Get her out of there. Let's get a picture of her. That's big bass leader right now. My goodness. Look at this old Truman Lake bass here. Here goes the leader right now in this tournament. $10,000 on the line, getting ready to fire things up the way we like to see them. 18.50 pounds. That's your leader right now, Jeff Herberger.
A short time later, Kevin Bowling comes in with a limit weighing 14.6 pounds to move into second place and clinch his championship berth. Then, Larry Seeger, who previously won an amateur division title at Lake of the Ozarks, moves into position to claim a pro division title as well.
How many bass we got?
Got a limit.
He has a limit. I'll guarantee you somebody's going to have to move out of the way to keep this guy from going this championship. Good sack of fish, 15.60 pounds. Go get him tomorrow, Larry Seeger.
Just when everyone has conceded the Day 1 lead to Herberger, Bill Reed comes to the scales.
How many bass you got? 5 bass. We got a new leader, they say. We got somebody challenging the lead over here. I don't know. I don't think they got to get on up there. I don't think they'll do it. 19.90 pounds. Get some of those fish out of there. Boy, we're talking about a 4-pound average here. A 4-pound average on a day when I'm telling you, it's tough out there. There's your leader. Right now in the Pro Division, Bill Reed.
At the end of the first day, Bill Reed sits atop the Quantum Pro-Am scoreboard with 19.9 pounds. But Jeff Herberger is right on his heels with 18.5 pounds. Larry Seeger is 3 pounds behind Herberger in third place with 15.6 pounds, with Mark Weezy and Kevin Bowling rounding out the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, Pete Winters leads the way in 6th place with 13.7 pounds. But Brian Snowden, Howard McAllister, Jim Davidson, and Roger Hackman are all in hot pursuit. In the amateur division, Frank Divis is the leader with 10.25 pounds, but it's tight from there on. Chris Seiler holds down 2nd place with 9.55 pounds, but he has only a narrow edge over Kim Huey, Mark Lemon, and Lauren Moore. In the rest of the top 10, James Park and Jack Taft III head the list in 6th and 7th place, respectively. Stay tuned for exciting Day 2 action. We'll be right back. Helpful hints from some of Central Pro-Am's top competitors, brought to you by Daylight Donuts, the best donuts around. In 1998, Dave Barker won the Truman Pro-Am by fishing an 11-inch plastic worm to catch bass suspended in standing timber. Barker is a master at fishing a plastic worm, and there's always a lot to learn when he explains how he fishes it his way.
I watch the line where it's laying on the surface of the water. Your line will be laying on the surface of the water, and as your bait falls, the line tends to streak towards your bait. And if it either pauses or speeds up, anything that changes about that line progressing towards the lure, there's something's going on there that you need to investigate or check out. In this slightly stained or stained water, I want a dark colored worm, but yet I think if it's dark on one side, like the laminated worms are, like the tequila sunrise and the red shad bow, are dark on one side and lighter on the other side. And as a worm falls, you get a twisting action, and I think it encourages some bites sometimes, whether if it's just one solid color, maybe you wouldn't get that bite.
The morning of day 2 is also chilly, but there's no fog on the water this morning, and it's likely that the day will get hot, or as the weathermen are fond of saying, seasonably warm. Still, the Pro-Am anglers have learned that at Truman, you expect the unexpected. First day leader Bill Reed is out with the first flight and returns to the areas near Truman Dam where he caught his limit on day 1. He's fishing a 10-inch plastic worm in the tops of standing timber to catch bass that have suspended 3 to 8 feet deep. The tactic worked well on day 1, but this morning things have changed. Earlier this year, Reed came within 2 pounds of winning the Dardanelle Pro-Am with a second-day charge. But this is his best chance ever to win his first Central Pro-Am tournament. With his best spots not producing, Reed begins fishing similar areas from the mouth of Tebow Creek to the Pomme de Terre arm of the lake. But unless his fortunes change dramatically, his chances for victory are vanishing. Meanwhile, Jeff Herberger returns to his area near the back of Tebow Creek, only to find what he hoped he wouldn't find. Joel Baker, who was in 14th place after day 1, is already there. Even though this is Herberger's first Pro-Am event, he's a seasoned tournament angler. He's qualified for 7 Redman regionals, including 3 on Truman. Herberger was looking for bigger tournaments to fish, and when he saw that Central Pro-Am had scheduled a tournament on Truman, he decided to take his chances. And so far, he's making the most of the opportunity. Herberger is fishing a small chartreuse spinnerbait with a single Colorado blade and working it around logs just off the creek channel. Immediately, he starts catching fish, but the big ones that were hitting the previous day are nowhere to be found. Finally, Herberger lands his first keeper. Now he's ready to find more, like the 7.5-pounder he had the first day. 200 yards farther up the creek, Joel Baker is fishing a shallow-running crankbait around the laydowns. He had only 3 fish on day 1, but they totaled nearly 11 pounds. So a limit of fish like those could put him in position to win his first Central Pro-Am tournament. Baker came close to winning the 1998 Pro-Am Championship at Grand Lake, and he's already assured himself of a return trip to this year's championship. But a victory at Truman would make a perfect end to a great season. Herberger and Baker aren't the only ones fishing this area of Tebow Creek. A quarter-mile farther upstream is guess who? Larry Seeger, who was in 3rd place after day 1. 1999 has already been a season of dramatic highs and lows for Seeger. He led Central Pro-Am's inaugural Titleist tournament for the first 2 days before his fish shut off on day 3 and he fell out of contention. Before this tournament, his only goal was to do well enough to make the championship. Now, a victory here might even be a possibility.
I had been up in this creek in 1993. My first year as a pro, I came up here. And I had caught some fish up here, but I caught more fish in another creek, so I went to the other creek. Well, being number 30 going for the championship, I knew I had to catch some fish this tournament, so I spent 7 days practicing, and I fished every creek in this lake. It's something that helped this creek. It was blocked off. There was a log jam up there all last year. Nobody could get in it, so that helped this creek a lot. But we had a lot of company yesterday. There was about 15 boats in here yesterday. As everybody's game plan fell apart, the rest of the lake, everybody came up here. Now, I'm hoping today, since they had such a tough time yesterday, they don't come back up. Fish, big fish. He's in the logs. Okay, he's out. He's out. There he is. Okay. Oh, he's not that big. He looks like he's a keeper. He was around that log. He looked a whole lot bigger. He's hook goofy too. Watch. Bring him in. All right. Number 4. All right.
Meanwhile, Jeff Herberger continues his quest to find keepers.
On Friday, I was throwing this yellow lime and white spinnerbait, and they'd really climb on it. I saw all the shad in the water. I thought, geez, look at all, try a white one. So I put on white, and I mean, you could see a considerable fall off in the number of strikes that you'd have. I think with the stained water, one, they can see it better. And also yesterday, that big fish I caught deposited a big old bluegill in my live well. And in the water, this looks very similar to a bluegill swimming. This is the first time I fished a Central Pro-Am, and I was a little concerned because yesterday so many boats came up through that log jam down there. That was primarily where we caught most of the good ones yesterday. And today I came, and I'm sure the guys know where I caught them, and nobody, came in to fish it. So pretty good bunch of guys.
When the Pro-Am anglers return to Bucksaw Point for the afternoon weigh-in, Chris Seiler is one of the first amateur division competitors to weigh in.
He's got 5.25 pounds today. Let's see what happens here. That's going to get it started. Here we go. 14.80 pounds. A new leader in the amateur division, Chris Seiler.
A short time later, Frank Divis makes his bid to retake the lead. Divis has only one keeper and falls short with 12.95 pounds. Then, out of nowhere, comes Dave Smrecker.
Looky here, looky here. Watch out. 13.10 pounds. Get a couple of those fish out of there. Dave Smrecker now has 19.80 pounds, and he's a new leader in the amateur division here. There we go. He's shaking like a leaf up here. It's only $3,000 first place money, that's all.
In the Pro Division, Butch Still is one of the first to weigh in. After bringing in only 2 fish on day 1, Still has come roaring back with a limit weighing 17.8 pounds to take the Pro Division lead with 25.8 pounds. Then, Larry Seeger comes to the scales.
Did you catch him?
Got a limit.
He's got a 5-fish limit. That is going to make it hard for Bill Reed and the gentleman from Wisconsin to stay after it here. 13.05 pounds. Let's get a 2-day total here. Here we go, folks. This is the one they got to beat right now. 28.65 pounds, a new leader in the Pro Division, Larry Seeger.
Next is Jeff Herberger.
Only 3, and I'll tell you what, on this lake, that can do it. Here it goes. There it went. 6.55 pounds.
Bob Kaufman comes in with a solid second-day limit, weighing over 17 pounds. But he falls just short of overtaking Seeger and Still, settling into 3rd place with 25.6 pounds. A few minutes later, Buzz Hopp comes to the scales.
Good sack of fish, Buzz. Good job. Look at here, watch out. 18 pounds even. My goodness. Seeger may have had his first big challenge and didn't know about it. 25.10 pounds on day 2. Good job, Buzz Hoff. Yes, sir.
It's official now. Larry Seeger comes through to win his first Pro Division title with a 2-day total of 28.65 pounds. Remarkable day 2 performances by Butch Still, Bob Kaufman, and Buzz Hopp propel them to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place, while Jeff Herberger holds on to finish 5th. In the rest of the top 10, Pro Division Rookie of the Year Tim Taylor leads the way in 6th place with 24.75 pounds. Brian Snowden, Jim Davidson, Larry Bowling, and Joel Baker all finish close behind. In the amateur division, Dave Smrecker wins his first Central Pro-Am title with 19.8 pounds, giving him a 5-pound edge over runner-up Chris Seiler, with James Park, Frank Divis, and Larry Stevie completing the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, Mike Smith leads the way in 6th place, with Dustin Carpenter achieving his best Pro-Am finish ever in 7th. At the conclusion of the tournament, the qualifiers for the Ranger Mercury Pro-Am Championship are introduced, including Pro Division Angler of the Year Troy Akins and Mike Smith, the Angler of the Year in the Amateur Division. But for all the qualifiers and the rest of the Pro-Am competitors, it was a very good year. Techniques you can use to catch more fish. Brought to you by Ranger Boats, where they still build them one at a time.
Yesterday was frustrating at first because the first 3 fish, and one of them was a big fish, was about a 5-pound fish, pulled off. I was using a white Bagley's B1, and prior to the cutoff, the water was pretty clear up there. You could see 8-10 inches deep. When I came back, it had muddied up, and so what I think was happening was those fish weren't seeing that bait good enough, and so I started throwing the chartreuse bee. Then within about 5 casts, I had my first keeper. Within the next 2 hours, I had a limit. I had a limit by 11 o'clock. Today, I started catching a few fish, and I had 3 fish by 8 o'clock. When they stopped biting at 8 o'clock, I just was not getting any bites at all. So I started using the Chomper's garlic spray. Made a difference. Immediately, we started getting bites again, and I ended up catching 3 more keepers. And I attribute it to the fact that I was spraying the crankbait with the Chomper's garlic spray.
Hey, thanks for being with us today. We really enjoyed bringing you the Fishing Magazine television series. Please join us next week as we take you to the 1999 $125,000 Ranger Mercury Pro-Am Bass Fishing Championship. Until then, take care and good fishing.
The Fishing Magazine television series is brought to you by Ranger Boats, still building them one at a time so you can fish hard, run strong.